we had our first meetup. Since then, the group has become so large, and I'm so happy that it is still continuing. We have about close to 2,000 members on the meetup group, and on an average, about 80 to 100 people keeps attending our meetups. So, and for the past 1 year since I'm in ThoughtWorks, at least last 4 5 meetups we have been organizing here. So yeah, a big thanks to ThoughtWorks also for helping us grow this community. So what is this community IoT Geeks? In Chennai, in Bangalore, if you see, there are a lot of IoT communities. People come there, there is makerspace, all those things here. But what is in Chennai? So DOS and a few friends from Caterpillar, they thought of let's start up with a community. Let's see how it goes. I came in. Sorry. So I came in and we started organizing these meetups. We started bringing in more and more people who would share their ideas, share their learnings. And recently we have started coming up these workshops. This time we have also some speakers who would share us the industry experience. I would like to introduce our speakers for the day. We have Ravi Shankar. So Ravi Shankar, he is the Associate Director for Digital Analytics at Cognizant, and he is the member of National Technical Committee for IoT Standards, Government of India. Please give a round of applause for him. Then we have Mr. Balaji Vishwanathan. Most of people might be knowing him. Balaji is VP of Products at Invento. And Invento is a makerspace based in Bangalore focused on training next generation of engineers. Balaji, as you all know, he's a Quora rockstar and we are glad to have him here. Durai would be coming in short time. Durai is the founder of iMorphing. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's well known in the Indian startup community. We'll be having him shortly and we'll see what he has to share today. For today's session, we have Mahesh. Mahesh is the professor at Agni College and he'll be guiding you all during this workshop. He and Raja will be there assisting you. We have a team of 20 volunteers from Agni College. We are thankful for his support. Yeah. So hope you guys enjoy today's session, and if you have any feedbacks, I'll share the link. Please do share your feedbacks. One more information. So today we have some tweet prizes also. So the person who makes most meaningful tweets and most number of tweets, please ensure that your tweets have these following hashtags: #IoT Geeks, then SCP Workshop, and of course ThoughtWorks. So whoever tweets the most meaningful tweets gets to win prizes from the right and iPhone. So thank you. Have a pleasant day. Thanks everyone.
Yeah, I don't know. So
I got some very good aids here, so maybe if you guys in the back can come in the front, that would be really helpful, if possible. Okay. So between let me give a small introduction to why is this I chose this topic because IoT is supposed to be a disruptive technology where it brings a lot of innovation and business disruptions. But what I see is most of the people who are talking today is only in terms of prototypes, right? Only people talking about Raspberry Pis, ESP266, and some Watt boards and stuff like that. And I'll share some of the experience that I have, and this presentation is all about my experiences in running an IoT company as a chief technology officer, and how we able to make it, and what kind of mistakes we really did it, and that would probably help you guys to do the thing right and make you guys successful in your mission. Thank you, Shiva. Shiva is from Cognizant, so he's helping me in navigating the slide. Thank you. So here is my journey. I just want to give this journey because this is where I started and how I navigated it. So I started my career in IBM, and then I worked for GE for some time on healthcare, on the missions, where I learned the lean, new product introductions, and all that kind of stuff. And I worked for Oracle Consulting in Europe and South Africa and stuff like that, where I interact basically with customers, where I understand how do we really ask the questions and to understand the real deep requirements of what we should supposed to do. And I do work with Cognizant before that. So why I'm saying this, so these are enterprises, right? So may I know like how many people are from enterprises companies in this group? Okay, so the big companies, right? So the reason I'm saying is in this enterprises, I worked as researcher, I worked as a technology leader, I do written a book during the time. So I was really confident that I know how can I build systems, right? Because we happen to get that thought when we are in big companies, and especially when you're doing kind of okay, right? So when I was thinking of it, I want to do some kind of a startup where I want to learn more and experiment some of my things that what I would like to change. Okay? That's when I moved to an Internet of Things company as a CTO. And so this talk is more about that section of my life. And then I quit that company, and then now I'm part of Cognizant again. And I also was selected as IoT expert by Government of India, and I am very proud to represent India in international forums like ISO in standardizing IoT standards. So which is very important for this world, right? So I work with the standard companies like American standards at the ANSI, the Korean standards, Chinese standards, and some of the other standards from 17 countries. So which gives me a visibility of what IoT, where IoT is going on, what kind of standards is required, and which is good for which applications and all that kind of stuff, right? I'll share some of the knowledges to you because you guys need to choose the right standards and right platforms for make your use case successful and scalable. So as I told you, like I worked in companies, and I thought I can do a successful plan. But when I went into startup, this is what it happened, right? So what really happened is like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So in a startup, you will be really punched in the face because there is an extreme uncertainty. You don't have departments, you don't have a point of contacts, you don't have processes, right? You don't do anything in a planned form, right? So you don't have any plan even, right? So keep this in mind before even thinking of a startup or successfully want to transition your idea into a product and then commercialize it. So when I move on, so what was our mission? Our mission was to really catapult the service ethics in the real world, right? So can I ask you, how many people has used IoT in everyday life in Chennai? How many of you guys has used IoT in real life in Chennai? No one? Starting? Okay. So how many of you have visited Talapakati Biryanis? Okay. No, don't feel shy. Okay. So how many of people have seen a device on the table of Talapakati Biryani? Yeah, you have seen it? You have seen it? That's our device. Okay. So we built a real device which can hook it to cloud and do some analysis and give some advantage for both the customer and the consumer. Right? That's 2 years back. So we were able to successfully build the device, the platform, and our analytical engine and commercialize to all the hotels in Chennai of the locality. And we do have most of the hotels in Chennai in 2 years back. Right? Today, I can see Forbes.com writing an article talking about an IoT can transform hospitality industry, which I am really proud of. And the credit goes to the whole team and the management team and the CEO who really want to take this plunge. Right? So I'll share the experiences of this one. So feel happy and pride that you can take your IoT ideas and solutions in Chennai itself, right? Which would be probably you can step forward into the whole world. So this slide will all talk about what actually an IoT product or what all the things that you would probably really keep in mind in transforming an IoT idea into an IoT startup. And there are many, so I just want to highlight very few things which I think would probably good for all of us. So this is the first thing. So it's all about the team, right? So team is very, very important. Founding team is so important. So the first thing you would probably need to understand the mantra is fail, learn, and lean, and faster, right? You should be willing to fail. If you want to get into startup, if you're a person who will take to heart the failure, I think you will not the right person to be in a startup, right? Because the first thing is like you will definitely will fail. In fact, people say that if you are not failing, you are doing some mistake, right? Especially in startup. So if you see here, in this cartoon, it's very nice. People say, "What is startup?" It says it's something like you can wear whatever you want, right? You can work from home. There is no rules and so on and so forth. It's not the startup, right? Startup is serious business, and I read that startup is all about like chewing glass. So you have to be very serious, like when you are part of startup or anything, even if you are working on a product which would like to take it to commercializing it. So it's a rough and tumble. 4 rules of founding team. So this is one of the important strategy to have it in a founding team. May I ask how many people wants to do a startup in IoT in this group? Okay, awesome. Okay, so may I know what are the roles that you think probably very important for a founding team? Can anybody tell me that what all the roles the founding team should have? Or are you thinking of? Can anybody volunteer? So you may probably think of, can I choose this person? He would probably write for me. But what are the roles? Anybody have thought about it?
Product owner, developers, product owner, product owner, developer, idea, and the DevOps team.
Thank you. Your good name, please.
From Chennai.
Okay, so anybody wants to volunteer? I think it is a very important question to think of, and I definitely agree from a functional standpoint. You have different teams has different roles, but this is so important that a founder team should have a producer, an administrator, an entrepreneur, and an integrator, right? So if you think of that level, so the entrepreneur is the one who has an idea, who will take thinking through that, how do you this idea can be evolved to the real world scenarios. When you think of producer, he is the one converting that idea into something physical, right, or something in the systems. And administrator is all about building processes around it. How do we really can be repetitive and how it can be scaled, right? The integrator is the guy, he doesn't do anything, right? So basically, he too is convincing these 3 guys who are fighting with each other. And it has so happened that all these 3 different roles have a different picture of the world. There is always a conflict of interest. So it is very important to have an integrator in your founding team, or somebody plays the role to convince the other people and stay focused on what is your product idea is and what is your mission is. Right? So keep it in mind when you're choosing your founder. If you choose a wrong founder, I will tell you, you would not probably much successful, right? So that's a second thing which I think very important. And third one is innovation is not enough, right? Many people talks to me that I have this prototype and it was amazing. I have a breakthrough in technology. I able to make things so fast. I know that is not enough. Okay. Sorry to say, like a lot of innovators, and we do products. And Amrita is here, who is also like, I know she does a lot of innovative stuff, but that is not enough, right? Because you have to commercialize it, right? You have to validate your innovative idea, whether it can be done on cost and it can be repeatable and scalable for, dollars, right, for business. So keep that in mind. Fourth one, what I see in most startups who are talking, they are rushing too fast, right? Please don't rush, and they lie so much. Nobody will gonna say anything, and no, don't afraid of failure. Be truthful to you. In fact, being truthful to you and tell the people who really wants to hear, so that they can advise you and correct you from where you want to go, so that you can able to have iterations of your ideas. And third, very important thing is CEOs is they are very stubborn on their original idea, right? Don't be stubborn on your original idea. We understand that you have thought through it, you have spent nights and days in thinking about your idea, but that does not demand, or that not means that you have to be stubborn on it. Because when you do a startup, it's all you have is guesses, right? You have guesses. And a very sophisticated term, it's all about hypothesis, right? So you only have guesses. We had guesses that, if we have a device in Talapakati Biryani, would probably help to improve the service ethics, would probably help to improve the resource management, would probably help, somebody happy, because they don't want to shout, they don't want to yell, and some baby will not cry on the road waiting for it. It's all guesses, right? But when we want to implement it, we have to allow to evolve, because there are a lot of things that you need to understand, that the idea needs to stay in an ecosystem and evolve and grow, right? Don't be stubborn about it. That's the one problem even today's VCs complain is the CEO is not listening, right? He's not allowing, he's not taking any advices, right? If you're stubborn, it is very difficult for people around you, and in fact for your idea even to grow. So keep that all this for when you're talking about the team. Any questions? Was it useful? Okay.
Can you elaborate more on the individual capability device you installed? Maybe for one or two.
Yeah, I have different sections that involve devices and analytics and standards and stuff like that, and I will probably touch on that would probably help you. And most of the things are my experience or no theoretical, so I can tell you quite exact examples. I think. So this is something I want you to guys to understand. When you are a team, you are a founding team to start up. So can you see what is on the left hand side? It is a news about men walk on the moon. So this happens in 1969, right? So this is the biggest innovation anybody can imagine. This is the first time somebody go to the moon and land in the moon, which was the inspiration for the whole world, that they can do it as a mankind, right? So that's what we all do, right? As an entrepreneurs, as a thinkers, and we want to have an idea which can have an impact in the society, either commercially or in terms of improving the lives of people, right? So that is an innovation. But what we should not do, here in the right hand side you can see this is the declaration form of customs. So they have a declaration form for customs for the people who landed from moon. So if you see here, this is the customs form where Neil Armstrong and Aldrin has signed, right? Don't do this, right? So if you are doing an innovation, you would probably think of what really makes sense for your product, what really makes sense to take the product to the market, right? Don't put everything. And this is one of the problem in the big companies, right? Why big companies really fail and why the companies are not as competitive as the startups and cannot be nimble is they even want to talk about entrepreneurship. They want to talk about innovations. They want to talk about everything which want to compete in a startup. But they do put all the processes of their organizations, right? And that will completely fail. Right? That's a very important thing, idea and a message to the largest corporations who want to be competitive. And I see there are certain things that are happening to lean their processes to be competitive. Second one, so those the startups. So first, I think we have to understand what is a startup. See, how many of the people think that startups are companies? How many people think that startups are companies? If anybody wants to work for a startup, okay. I know a lot of people are interested in working for a startup. So, do you think startup is a company? Kind of. So, what is that? Okay, it's not a fully a company till it commercialized. Okay. So, what else? Okay, the people who wants to join a startup, right? That's an amazing thing. Right? You will enjoy it. I'll tell you. But you should understand, startups are not companies. Startups are temporary organizations, right? In search of business models. So the startup should always in search of something, right? To improvise their product, understand the market, to reduce the cost, increase the revenue, whatever, right? There are many things. They always search. So, and as a team of a startup company, you should also in the search mode, right? Then your company will be successful. You are helping the company. If you want to join a startup but continue to be like, work like and you are the part of a company, I think as a team it will fail. So this is a very important message that I would like to say. Even people who want to work in startup, even if you are working in a big companies, I think this kind of an attitude would probably help. Because in today's world, everything needs to be competitive, right? So you continually search for stuff. Second point, it's fitting a business model. So we have the next one, which talks about business model and what it really means and why it is so important to even thinking of it for the people who start thinking of IoT product. I'll based upon some of the things which is very specific to IoT. So if you see in the third point, we should probably understand an IoT product, what you can excite a customer, right? This is a very important thing. I think as a team, when we started, we deliberated a lot, we fought a lot, because we want to understand what will excite an Indian customer, right? We have worked in many places. We understand the different cultures and different expectations. An American is a complete different guy than an Indian, right? So what will excite an Indian in a hotel industry or a hospitality industry or in fact healthcare? Because our mission was not very specific to verticals, it is improving the service ethics, right? So this is the one thing we would like to have. The second thing is you should understand your product very well and about the customers, right? So if you see in our thing, there are two customers. Right? One is the consumer, another one is the customer. Right? The we who walks into the hotel, and two, the hoteliers. Right? How do you convince both? So this is a two-sided business model, right? So you have to understand what is the business model that your product is really fit in. I think Magesh is working on certain products, and being a technical expert, this is what makes your product, make or break, right? Because you would probably your product, somebody gonna pay you, but somebody gonna use it, right? I think your ideas are also in the same thing. So it is very important to understand this, right? And fourth point is you always keep in mind whether your customer will recommend your product to a customer, and you always keep that as a ultimate north, right? If your customer don't recommend your product to his friend, probably your product is not that good. It's as simple as that. So you ask your customer, will you recommend my product to the next shop? If he says no, probably you have to come, run to your office, take all your team, go back to the road to understand where exactly they're missing. So it is very easy to measure what is success of your product or your startup. Okay? So, can you move? So we talk about what is a business model canvas. This is very important, and I have learned so much on this thinking about it. Right? How many people doesn't know business model canvas? Others know? I'd be happy. Okay, so most of these people, right? So the business model canvas is the one very important tool uh, developed by Alexander Ostwald, and this is a tool which is to give you a perspective of where exactly your product would probably be. And I really encourage people to look at it and think about it in this context about your product in India. Right? So what it really has, it is as simple as that. You can go to Google and search for business model canvas, take it and take a printout, put it in your wall. It's all about having different boxes. Right? Take a sticky note, keep pasting it. For example, I just put a sample for you guys just to help you understand how benefit this would probably be. So first thing is you understand your customer segments, right? Who is your customer? And what is your value proposition? If everybody can see this, or you want to switch on the slides? Switch it off. Can someone help to switch off the lights? You have to switch off this one, the side of it. So people who cannot able to see at the back, please come front, because if the only point if you can able to take away, I think this would probably be the one. I think it would probably help you guys much. Okay, so thank you so much for really organizing yourself. So as I said, understand your customer is so important, right? So think more about this particular box. It's not about restaurants. You would probably need to understand a little bit more deep of their cultures. What is this? Like I said, what kind of, it's a two-sided business model. Then you have two customers. One is restaurants, one is the guy who is coming to your hotel to eat. So this is one. Second thing is, what is the value proposition? What is your product gonna do, right? So, for example, here it would say improve ethics, resource management, customer service. So these are the main important things about your product. Now, the next step is how are you taking your value proposition to the product, right? So I have a device on the table, so somebody is using it. I have a customer is using it, fine, good. It goes to the cloud, go to the wearables, good enough. Now, how you are connecting your product with the hotelier? It's a question that you have to ask, right? So because it is a two-sided business model, so you cannot serve only one customer. There are times there can be many customers if it's a network model, right? So please explore that. So in our case, for example, like I am sending an insights report to the hotelier about how things are, or what kind of people coming in and what kind of things going on, and so on and so forth, right? So that is the customer relationship. That is the way I am locking in my customer. This is very important. And also think of, right, can customer create that by themselves? Right? If you go and talk to your customer and you talk about idea, and this is what my customer relationship, is it, if the customer can do it themselves, then you are not there, right? So careful about how you are taking it up, right? People who are in big data analytics would probably do saying, okay, I take this and I do this. Okay, you take the customer say, fine, very good, I will do it myself, right? So what happens to your business? So you have to probably think of, how you are taking your idea to your value proposition, but at the same time, you have to ensure you got something which you needed. That's where the patent comes, right? So what is a patent? Right? So patent is a one way that you can protect your IP, right? Then the patent comes to key resources, right? So you add a patent to your key resources, which you have to work on, right? So now let me come to the channels. So now these boxes are connected, right? Let me go to channels. How are me taking the product to the customer? My product has a direct and a retail, right? Now, so how it is going to be direct, how it is going to be retail. So if it is going to be retail, then I should have a sales team, which is my task, right? So you say direct, then you say there, right? So it is very important. So think about each and every post-it notes that you're going to post it, right? Similarly, what kind of revenue streams that you are looking at. So you have a product now, you identify your value proposition, you understand that how you're going to relationship with the customer, you understand the channel you're going to take it of them, you understand the task required for it. Now, how is the revenue going to work on? Sometimes when you work on the revenue streams, you will probably change all your business model, right? Let me tell you this. Okay. So now I say I'm going to do this, right? What should I have? I should have a key activity, which, for example, if I do something on insights, if I do something on, getting some actions based upon the data, I need a data platform. I need an analytical algorithms running on it. Now I have the key activities here. Now to have my analytical engine, I need a cloud platform, right? In today's world, though we are evolving more beyond cloud, like mesh networks and stuff like that, I think cloud is very important tool in today's world. Right? So now I have a cloud as a key resources. To host the cloud, I need to pay, right? So I have to pay the cloud. How much I gonna use it? So now this has come to my cost. Now the cost is gonna impact my revenue, right? So you're gonna iterate, think of it, how really gonna work on. If you don't do this, your product will be a prototype. That's a serious thing, right? I know I've lost prototypes, I've lost many of the ideas just because, and I'm afraid of thinking of this way, right? Is it helpful? Okay, great. So any questions on this? This is a very important thing, right? So this is, if you see senses and data hosting environments and all the kind of stuff, and it goes into even anything. Right? Yeah, anything is fine. It's not even a startup and stuff like that. So any questions? This is a very important thing. So any questions? Please ask me. I don't mind spending a little bit more time on this. Sorry. Questions? Yes.
To build these things, you need funding, right? Initially.
Okay. Is it all your question, or is it anything you want to add? It? Balaji, you want to clarify him?
So the funding part, so the private.
So one of the things you want to do is be really clear on what you are going to be building. For most of the prototypes, it's not going to be really that expensive. So the cost required to start a company, it has come down so much now. We can start companies without much funding, and so try to get a frugal innovation. So that's all the mantra is. So can you do without funding? then that is the best kind of startup. That is, funding is useful for scaling up. So once you have a seed, funding is used for scaling up. Funding cannot create the seed. So you are the founding team is the one that has to create the seed. So for the funds can help it grow. So, but if the the funding is relied upon to create the seed, the startup is never going to succeed. So look at how can you frugally do the initial seed part, then rely on the funding for the scaling up part. So that's much more easy for both the investors and the startups if we are using the funding for scaling rather than for germinating.
Thank you, Balaji. Appreciate that. Anybody wants to clarify? Okay, I have a one point just to answer it, just to add on what Balaji says, and you're absolutely right. You better bootstrap, right? You can definitely have a lot of time talking to VCs about funding, and I'm not covered anything on the funding in the slides. It's mostly our technical staff or something related to funding. Funding is a different chapter. It would probably have a couple of sessions is required. But on this point of, thinking of taking the product and validating the product, I'll tell you one thing. How many people do something related to, okay, this is a robotics workshop, right? So how many people doing prototypes and robotics, something related to robotics? Yeah, I think Magesh, if Magesh is there, Magesh definitely will be one person who is working on cocktails and stuff like that, right? So now, if you want to do a prototype, you were asked about, do I need a funding to do my first second prototype, right? I think no. You don't need any money, right? Let's assume somebody take a device, for example, let's assume somebody wants to fly a device and take a couple of pictures and analyze those pictures and say that, how this area is and what kind of cultivation it is done, is there any pest required or whatever, right? So now this is your idea. Now to do a prototype, what would probably one person first do? The first to do is, I see or I heard, is they immediately go and search for, DigiKey and understand about what different devices it has got needed, what kind of components are required, what kind of manufacturing process involved. I think that's completely incorrect. We should not do that. What do you probably do is, what is the output of that analysis? Your output of that analysis probably a table which says, this is the area that I covered from this lat long to this lat long, and this is what my square kilometers is, and these are my observations, and this is what the actions required probably. This you can write it in a paper, right? You can write it in a paper and take that paper to the customer and show him, if I give this report to you, will you buy me for $5? Right? If he says, no, this is crap, don't do it. Right? So I think we should not think of money as far as possible. I think we should probably think of what customer would probably require. Then once you validate it, when your customer says, yes, yeah, I need this, you send me an email like this is very useful for me because I would probably plan by next planning session. Right? It's applied to many, especially in IoT stuff. In IoT stuff, everybody thinks about only devices. Devices is not there. I have one section especially on devices. You will get surprised about it. Right? Devices, not everything. In IoT. Keep in mind. Does it make sense to you? Right. So I have another question. Somebody asked.
So I don't really want to make this into a startup kind of a discussion, but if this question is inappropriate, just we can talk about it later. So let's assume like I have a prototype, it's working fine, it's on Arduino or whatever stuff it is. But now I want to design the final one thing with the correct form factor I'm thinking about. how do we do that? Is there things available in India or anywhere that where we can go walk in and say, hey, I want to design it in such a way, it's like a rocket, okay, it's hanging on my tech. It's working fine in my Arduino, but how do I know it works in that form factor the way I am envisioning it? And if it's not appropriate for this in this context, I'm absolutely fine. We can talk about it.
Thank you for the question. I think it's definitely appropriate. We have one topic, it's all about the manufacturers. I will share some of the at least views about how do you want to take your prototypes to the production ready devices. Okay. There are ways, I think. I will share some of the things and we can take it offline if it is a little deeper. Is it okay? Thank you. So I will move on to the next thing. So now we understand what is the business model, right? So if you don't have a business model, you're not gonna do. Your product will not gonna fly. Okay? I think go and sit again today and validate, put everything about your business. Now it's very important that that your business model is not correct, right? Very possible. 90% your business model is not correct, right? Because all you got is guesses, right? We guess this would probably fly. We guess something will go and read it, and I know that Balaji has worked on some things, and he guesses that it will probably work. It's all about guesses, right? So now what we need to do really do is connect with the customer and validate those guesses, whether it is right or wrong, right? And then what? You do a pivot, right? Pivot is a term in Lean Startup, right? Pivot is a term which we derive from baseball, where you keep one leg grounded and you move one leg, right? Pivot is not jumping. I know, I've seen people talking about, I do a pivot, but completely jump from what they have done so far to a new direction. Keep in mind, see this picture, his leg will be grounded in one place. He will move only one. So he will keep his, the foundation stuff, right? All the learnings he has done so far, he just pivoted. For example, he will continue to keep his product, but he would probably zoom in a feature. For example, in our case, we have 5 features, right? Customer is not paying us. Customer says it's too costly for me. What should we do? There is a strategy called zoom in pivot, right? You zoom into your product feature, you probably choose what is the first 2 products which customer wants to pay. There are other scenarios that they think this features are very, very less. They want to see more. So now what do? You zoom out, right? You think add whatever required it is required, right? There are at times, the Chennai people is very good and they have a lot of money, they will pay it. But the people in the rural areas would probably will not have that much customers. So what you will do? You will pivot your customer segments, right? You will have an additional plan to map that customer, which is a new revenue stream, right? So you have to keep ready for pivot. Even that your company is successful, you should pivot, right? Because you continuously refining your business model, you are continuously reducing the risks, right? And you continually improvise something which is repeatable and scalable. Again, I repeat, your business model should be repeatable and scalable. And if you ask a question, what happens after I got something which is repeatable, scalable? You are not a startup. Now, you are graduated from a startup to an enterprise, if you find it, right? And if you take 10 years to find it, I think you are like a very old startup, right? So you should not probably run doing it. So you have to be careful. Okay? So now, this is to give you a picture in your mind where you can take how that your business model will help you to decide the right pivots, right? And you can have a multiple pivots as it go along, and you can see that I would probably have an urban restaurants where I have a different plan revenue streams for urban plus, and where I take more data on social data and stuff like that. People say how many people likes it, what not, right? So I goes to give you a fit to growth strategy, and that needs my analytical platform something, and then so on and so forth. Right? Now you have a new direction, which I call it, right, to validate your next guess. That's all to it is. Right? Prepare for it. Keep your mind ready for it. It's very important. Any questions? So now, this is all about devices. Somebody has to put devices, right? I see that devices are Trojan horses. Right? I like this picture, so there is a Trojan horse behind that, but you have to see the devices are not your business. In IoT, it's all about insights and actions, right? Nobody buys you for the devices. You may have a best device, performing device. You may have like the powerful, shining. No, they are paying for what insights that a customer get, or is there any way help it in making a better decision, right? So don't rely on the clever design as the differentiator, right? Design that you have, the design you put on an Arduino, design you put on some board here and there is not your differentiator. The differentiator is the telemetry data, the data that is coming out of your device, right? Customer buys only that data. It can be, optimizing signals where you have a ultrasonic sensor to detect how many cars are going and here and there, but it's all about, can I optimize traffic, right? It's all about that telemetry data really matters. So don't stick with devices. IoT guys and especially electronic guys, stick with that. It's not probably will take you for a long way. And don't underestimate hardware at the same time, because hardwares are costly and you should think of inputs, outputs, and energy, right? And you should think of network. So I think today standards, if I see what's really happening in IoT, is being driven by three. One is the coverage, the network coverage. Second thing is it's more about the cost, right? And the third thing is it's all about the battery life, right? If you really think of the people who is following all standards, people following about MQTT, people not calling REST services, people talking about LoRa, people talking about the NB-IoT, whatever standard with IoT is evolving, in any which is very crucial core of an IoT product, it's driven by three values, right? We'll touch upon some other things which is very important in terms of the standards in a slide. So can we do a quick time check? It's 11:35 now. 11:25. Okay. So we have some time. I was told it is 12. We can wrap it up. I hope it's okay for everyone. Right. So then in scale and performance. Okay. So this is Polyglot. Right? Okay. So we move. Okay. Thank you. So what is Polyglot? Right? Now we are moving from hardware to the product. Right? So now it is very important to understand in what are the advantages that we can make one product better. Right? Today that we are living in the world of microservices. Now, how many people know about microservices? Very good. Microservices, very good. Okay, what about others? I see a lot of people, start up a company, but you should probably know what is microservices if you are an IoT company. So microservices is all about the suite of independently developable small modular services. So why we need microservices today? Because we need different systems to handle IoT data streams, IoT event streams. right? We cannot have a one big system which can handle everything what is coming out of an IoT device because it's too fast, too heavy, right? And it is gibberish, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to split your system into multiple smaller service. One is something like a gateway. One is something like an intelligent insight engine. One is something like a fault analysis engine. One is to understand that the data which you want to see, whether it is data from business data or it's something statistical data. For example, you will send two data, I think so, right? In an IoT device. One is your your business data, which means like what is doing as a business function. Second is about statistic data about how the device performs. For example, battery life. For example, now how things are working on. For example, those kind of data, right? So now you have a separate component to identify. So what if this kind of a design is not there? If, for example, in our case, there are times kids play. So you go to the there, please play with the device. It keeps pressing it, right? The data keeps coming, and it goes to the steward, and steward keep complaining like, I'm keep getting the device. I mean, he will be really frustrated, right? So these kind of anomalies would probably come in your system also, right? What if it dust sit on your device? What if water falls on your device? What if somebody broke your device? Right? So you need to have in your system somewhere to identify different classification of data comes in because you perform different operations against this. Right? Think of something like this. Somebody broke your device and you keep pushing it. Some two wires got together inside the product. It's an electronic product after all. So what happens? It keeps sending data to you. So the business function data will not never enter your stuff. So there will be a lot of back pressure. You have to understand what is the back pressure is in IoT. If you're a technical guy, and I think some other people from technical community, right? You go and look at what is back pressure. Because if your system cannot handle a back pressure, your IoT product will not probably perform because one day or the other somebody gonna break or weather gonna break or whatever. So your product has to ensure it can withstand that conditions. That's why we need a microservice. And why we need a polyglot? What is polyglot? Right? Polyglot. Anybody knows what is polyglot? Anybody knows what is polyglot? Okay. So polyglot is nothing but talking in different languages. So if somebody is, multilingual, we call it as a polyglot. So today in IoT, you have a choice to choose different languages for different functions. For example, the ma'am was talking about, creating an IoT solution for image processing, right? For image processing, you have a lot of libraries in Python, right? So now you may probably want to do some kind of a time window functions, which Spark would probably be better today, right? So you choose different languages of implementations. Depends upon community, it depends upon your performance, and depends upon the productivity of your team, right? You have an option. So don't think of like you need to write everything in your Node-RED, right? I think when everybody uses Node-RED who are Raspberry Pi, you don't need to use that because Node-RED would probably be better for productivity, but Node-RED may not be better for other things, right? So keep your option open. Think of it. Open your systems. Think of different functions. Think of map your functions with your different language implementations with your team, and then choose it, right? You have choices. In Amazon Web Services, you can see like there are a lot of services like Lambda functions for computations and different queue services and storage services and whatnot, right? Like that. You can choose it. And think beyond the rest, right? REST services is not, it was there in Solar World and it's all good. But if you are in IoT, you should probably understand that, what it is. Okay? Okay. So, any questions? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, just give me a minute. Is there any questions? I can couple with that. Okay, so REST service, we all know REST service, right? So we create a service which runs on HTTP get and post, and that is the quickest way of implementing any data. But again, we have different way of acting it today, right? In IoT, you don't depend upon HTTP. You have MQTT, which works different way. You have CoAP, which works in different protocol, because you have to think of how much data it is going to you, and think of like this: more you send the data, more you pressure your data, your device going to eat a lot of electricity, right? Think of this: you are creating a product and go to put in a customer place, and customer will get an $500 electricity bill, right? Your product is so good, no problem. But will your customer keep your product if the electricity is too high? Right? Definitely not. Right? So now you understand how the data goes in. More you send the data, it's gonna consume a lot of power. You are not, allowing to get cool, right? So all your things, what data format you send, what protocols you send, what network you use. If the network is too low, if you are using 3G, if you are 4G, but you keep in say Tanjavur, right? And there is no 4G. I don't know now, right? But what happens? Your component will use more pressure to connect it. It's keep connecting it. And that is one of the challenge what we got, and we try to understand, we try to experiment, we try to innovate, and I think our team done an excellent job in terms of research, right? And our credit goes the whole team from the developer to all the managers, right? In terms of how effectively the battery can be used, right? Because we always get a call saying that a device is not working, and it's because of some kid playing with this all the day. And the parent says like, if the kid is crying, they will give the device and play with this device, right? So we have to understand it, and we understand it is not a problem. And as a product owners, we take that is also in use case. We put in user stories. We did do certain things to ensure that we understand the faults. Right? It's our thing. We can't blame the customer. We have to take care of it in the product. So that's what Polyglot is. That makes sense? Right. Okay, we got only 3 and further more topics, so it should be all right. Okay, sure. Okay, I quickly go through it. This is a big data slide, and the interest of time. This is my day job, so I'm a big data architect. I work on big data systems, building data supply chains and data lakes and optimize cost. But if you want to understand, I think of keep this picture in mind. It's all about Spark, right? It's not about data. It's all about you have to think about storage, process, and analyze, right? You have to ensure how your data is stored and what kind of format it uses, right? There are formats and standards today to keep your data stored effectively, right? For example, if you put a JSON file somewhere to your Hadoop per se, right? But if you convert the same JSON file into file like Avro files, right, which is binary files, right? There are a lot of advantage in terms of storage efficiency, but also in terms of adaptability or keeping your readers effectively and stuff like that, because the data and schema are in a same package. So on and so forth. So keep how you are stored, how you process, and how you analyze. Ensure the biggest mistake I have seen: people just dump the data and keep complaining about their platform or analytical pipelines taking so much of time. That's because you are concentrating on analytical pipelines, you are not concentrating on data. So I think you have to really think all the 3 stuff. And I would tell you, like, if you're analytic, you will have a lot of analytics pipelines because of window functions. You probably will know, like, this time to this one time, how many things happened and all that kind of stuff. So you have to ensure that how your data is stored very effectively. And standards. This is the one thing that somebody was talking about. So there are a lot of standards available. Like I said, there are 3 drivers which is driving today's time. It's all about how the coverage is very important for your product, and your cost, what device that you use, and then what was the other one? Okay, I forgot. Sorry. So there are these are the very important decisions that you would probably use. For example, are you using a 3G? Are you using LTE device? Are you using some other standard? Right. These are very important for you because this directly cost your product. Right. And and in terms of coverage, you have to understand that you know where you are keeping. For example, like we kept our devices in the far higher mountains. We kept our devices in beaches, right? Think of it. There is no Wi-Fi. You cannot cover this distance, right? Think about those scenarios, right? What is your coverage of your product? How far it should work? Are your sensor needs to communicate the gateway after 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers, right? Those are the situations you should probably think of because that will definitely be a very critical point. Prove your stability of your product to the customer because those are the places we failed, right? And we changed different protocols, RFIDs and so on and so forth, where different product sets for different ranges and stuff like that. Okay. So manufacturer is one of the very important section in IoT, and then you have to keep in mind that you know any guy who wants to build an IoT product cannot live with Alibaba.com and MFG.com or TCP, right? You have to get out of it. Once you're done with your prototype, validate your idea. I think you have to start doing it. In fact, I would say thinking about manufacturing should be in parallel with your validate because manufacturing process takes more time, right? And second thing, three things keep in mind: good, fast, and cheap. You can talk to on you're taking it probably like you can talk to DOS. DOS will give you some connects in terms of like how do we really take it up to the next level, like designing and manufacturing and PCB if at all required, right? And but you should when you are talking to them, you should keep three things in mind. Three are the good, fast, and cheap. How good that they're gonna do, and then how fast they gonna. There's a problem is that you do payment terms. Payment terms is very important for you. How are you gonna pay it to them, right? So what if there is a faulty product to get it to you? So how do you do it? This is not like software, right? This is not your IT companies where you have a bug, somebody check in your GitHub, do a deployment, everything goes fine. It's not like that. So be careful about it. And if you're going to China, you be doubly careful about it. Okay? Because China, even a NDA don't work. So non-disclosure agreement when you usually do it in US or it is, when you talk to your IP lawyers, they will always say that create an NDA. So NDA don't work in China as per the law itself, right? So I recommend you guys, if you guys are validated a business model, you think you are confident, think of it, talk to the IP lawyers. I think we got some good, intellectual property lawyers in Chennai also, right? We got some good friends. So, talk to them, take it to it and visit the factory, and I'm sure that everything goes well. Okay, that's it. So hope I think it all helped you guys thinking of all the sections or all the pillars or blocks, help you to guys to understand where you really are and how do we really evolve. But if we want to leave one thing which I always done a mistake is the first mistake is keep your idea secret. And for some reason I think it's an Indian thing that always keep secret, but don't do it, right? Please don't do it. Please talk about your ideas, at least to the people, at least definitely to the users, right? And validate it. If you keep your idea with you, it's gonna stay with you, right? So that is the only thing I want to pitch it to everyone. They aren't gonna steal it, and if you are lucky, they will give you their feedback, right? Which is very important. Right? So that's the only note I would like to leave, and good luck for you guys and enjoy wrestling and entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your so much data which you actually give us. We're gonna take some time for assimilate. We have a small break, like a 5 minutes break. We have some biscuits and tea, right? So tea. If you want, you can just take a 5 minutes break, and then Balaji sir will continue his speech.
Actually, very small one, sir.
No, it's okay, sir. So we don't have any problem. We'll check the time. We'll have a 5 minute break. You can get freshen up. There's restroom in the back, and in the pantry you can get biscuits or tea or is available. Thank you.